I drove 2 hours to the only place that still smelled like peace. Clearview Lake lay flat and gold, until I saw my son in my chair, his wife and in-laws drinking from my glasses like they owned the air. "You're not allowed here anymore. This is their house now," Ethan said. The sentence didn't echo, it landed. I set my bag down like a man laying a tool on a workbench. Compliance curved my mouth, calculation tightened my hand. Inside, Caroline's knitted throw, our Santa Fe rug, my cedar coasters, props in someone else's play. Patricia set her glass directly on untreated wood. "It makes more sense this way," Madison said, soft as a blade. Gerald nodded at me the way men nod to hired help. I asked to come inside. Ethan said I'd be in the way. The laugh that rose in my chest never reached my mouth. I left with German-engineered silence, drove through pines that always smelled like rain, and let humiliation cool into something colder. At home, I made coffee I didn't need and stared at Caroline's photo, hair on fire from sunset, eyes that never mistook kindness for surrender. Ethan's text arrived. "Don't come back. It's theirs permanently." I set the phone down and picked up a legal pad. 30 years in construction taught me two trades: building foundations and undermining them. Timelines lined up in my head like stakes on a string. Saturday, 2 p.m., a fixed target. I wrote one line under a clean heading: "They will never forget this day." I slept like a foreman in a storm, eyes closed, boots on. In the morning, the plan stood where my pride had fallen. First wall, paper; second wall, electricity; third wall, timing. And because he'd told me exactly when they'd arrive, Ethan had already poured my concrete. What breaks first, the nerve that bluffs or the house that answers back? By 8:30, I was in Marcus Lee's office, handshake like a lock that fits. Title deed, purchase history will. He mapped fast: reinforce ownership, document threats, prepare a trust if needed. "How fast?" I asked. "We start today," he said. "Paper walls take shape quiet as snow, but paper alone doesn't teach thieves to hate a room." I walked to my neighbor Darren's place, an engineer whose office looked like the inside of a satellite. "I need motion sensors, light choreography, water control, projectors, whispering speakers, a closed network, and backup power," I said. He grinned. "A haunted house?" "A memory," I said, "of who owns what." By noon, we were at the lake. The villa smelled like cedar cleaner and unfinished sentences. Darren tucked sensors into crown molding, hid speakers in vents, threaded programmable LEDs beneath baseboards. The voice assistant learned a new line. "Attention. You are not the owner of this property. Leave immediately." Showers and sinks roared on command. Projectors painted pacing silhouettes down the upstairs hall. Directional audio perched above the entry. Stand on the doormat, and a whisper bends to one ear only. "You shouldn't be here." Hidden batteries in the basement hummed like coiled patience. The network sat off-grid. You couldn't unplug what you couldn't even find. We ate sandwiches on the steps while the lake held its breath, exactly the hour Caroline loved. The house looked unchanged to an untrained eye. That was the point. Every threshold a tripwire, every quiet a fuse. At dusk, I armed the system and locked the door. Back in Phoenix, feeds bloomed across my tablet. Entry, living, kitchen, landing, bedrooms. At 8:47 p.m., Ethan texted the last measurement I needed. "We'll be there around 2 p.m. Saturday. Don't bother coming up good. Precision is mercy for the builder, not the trespasser." I leaned back, listening to the soft electrical thrum of a house rehearsing its lines. When a door opens to entitlement, what script does the home recite first, warning or verdict? Saturday, 1:45 p.m. The entry camera showed a blue glass lake and a porch waiting. At 2:02, a silver SUV slid into frame. Ethan at the wheel, Madison stylish and certain, Gerald and Patricia leaning forward like tourists sure they'd booked oceanfront. They breezed past Darren's steel sign, "Enter at your own risk," and tore it down with a fingernail. I let them live in borrowed air for hours. Ease is a solvent, it loosens arrogance from the inside. At 10:03 p.m., the villa's sound graph fell to a whisper. I tapped execute full sequence. Flash, red slash, blue slash, white strobes, fractured depth perception. Projected shadows paced the hall. A whisper threaded the entry like a needle. "Get out." Kitchen water blasted stainless, showers roared upstairs, steam rolling down the landing like weather. The voice assistant cut through everything. "Unauthorized occupants detected." "Leave the premises immediately," Patricia screamed at a silhouette that dissolved when she blinked. Gerald stumbled, one hand lifted against light. Madison twisted faucets that didn't obey human hands. Ethan dragged at the front door. A built-in delay held the lock just long enough to teach panic how to count. They spilled onto the porch in a tangle of breath and muttered blame, then reversed into the trees, taillights swallowed by pine. The villa fell still, resetting. Systems breathed too. At 7:31 a.m., Ethan called. His voice had edges. What did you do?" "I was in Phoenix," I said, 200 miles away." He raged, then threatened, then promised to move them in anyway. "Maybe the house doesn't like strangers," I said. Silence stretched like wire. He hung up. By mid-morning, a locksmith arrived, toolbox heavy with the wrong century. "These aren't regular locks," he told Ethan. "Whole network need reprogramming." He left with a shrug that said, "Find another planet." That evening, they came to my Phoenix door with perfume and ultimatums. "Give us the villa or lose us forever." I'd have bled for that sentence 3 years ago. Now it was just weather. "I'm keeping what's mine," I said, and closed the conversation without raising my voice. If fear can push people out of a house, what pushes them out of their illusions? Morning broke like a clean incision. I called Marcus. "Make it permanent, not a stalemate, an end." He laid out options. I chose the one that would turn entitlement into a dead language. Donate the villa to Veterans Rest Initiative with lifetime honorary access. A gift with a key only I could lawfully turn. By afternoon, signatures bit paper like bolts through timber. Deed transfer, gift agreement, donor access clause. "Once recorded," Marcus said, "it's beyond reach." The weight slid from my shoulders onto a foundation my son could never stand on. That night, Ethan hammered the door and filmed his outrage. The lock didn't care. By morning, "We're suing." I told him to check the county record by Friday. When the charity posted their porch photo, lake ablaze, my phone filled with quiet congratulations. "So you'd rather give it to strangers than your son," he said. "I'd rather give it to people who respect a home." At the meeting, Madison folded into armor. Gerald tried on reason. Patricia's pearls trembled. Marcus read the record. Owner, Veterans Rest, transfer irrevocable. Donor access, Mr. Hale, trespass, noticed. We offered relocation help, Pride refused. Ethan's eyes finally softened. I kept pushing, hoping Mom's voice would fade. It didn't. Marcus squared the stack. "Paper walls," I said, "thin, until you hit one." I drove back under a pewter sky. Dana from Veterans Rest met me with clipboard and kindness. Inside, the villa exhaled, a house between seasons. The tech teeth were gone, boxed and returned with a bottle Darren pretended he didn't earn. I mapped memories for Dana, where Caroline read, where winter light lands, which drawer sticks when the barometer falls. "A small dedication," she said, "a plaque, given in memory of Caroline Hale. May this house be a quiet kind of healing quiet fit." Tires crunched. Ethan stood on the porch with coffee like a flag. We didn't rush an apology. We let it arrive. He'd stepped away from Madison. "I don't want to be the man who only calls when he needs something." The fire popped once. I told him if he ever came without angles, Dana had the schedule now. He accepted the boundary. That felt new. Snow stitched the roofs. Ray Torres, a veteran with door-wide shoulders, stood at the water. "Still doesn't mean shallow," he said. We stood until belief settled. 5 couples arrived, 2 Gold Star families, a father and son finding words. Laughter grew to the right size. The villa no longer belonged to me, and that was the cure. At dusk, the lake turned to mirror. A text. "I'll be in touch." Like a son. I answered with silence and a key that now meant access, not ownership. Irreversible.